It is dawn, April 14th, 1205. The air in the Thracian valley is cool, thick with the smell of damp earth and spring grass. A force of 40,000 men moves with a confidence born of divine right and recent, shocking victory. They are Crusaders. Knights of the Latin Empire, clad in steel from head to toe, their surcoats still stained from the conquest of the greatest city in Christendom, Constantinople. They are the masters of the world, they believe. And today, they march to chastise an upstart. Their commander is the new emperor himself, Baldwin of Flanders, his banner held high. He rides at the head of the most formidable military machine of the age, thousands of Frankish heavy cavalry, the unstoppable hammer of Europe. Their mission is simple. Tsar Kaloyan of Bulgaria, this Roman slayer, has been supporting revolts against their new Latin rule. He must be broken. The Crusaders expect a battle. They yearn for it. A clean, glorious clash where their charge decides all. But ahead, the land begins to change. The plains gently buckle into rolling hills, cut by a shallow river. The forests on the higher ground are oddly quiet. Baldwin's scouts have reported Cuman skirmishers, horse archers from the steppe, allied to Kaloyan. Nuisances, nothing more. The Crusader column pushes on, deeper into the funnel. They do not see the 12,000 eyes watching them. They do not yet feel the trap, centuries in the making, now poised to spring shut. To understand how an emperor and his vast army found themselves marching into a Bulgarian ambush, we must rewind just 1 year, to an act of catastrophic betrayal. This was the Fourth Crusade. Its aim was Egypt. But bankrupt, manipulated, and driven by greed, the Crusader army instead turned its swords on its Christian ally, the vast, wealthy, but internally crumbling Byzantine Empire. In April 1204, they stormed, sacked, and occupied Constantinople. They carved up the empire like a feast. Baldwin of Flanders was crowned emperor in the great church of Hagia Sophia, presiding over a new, fragile realm, the Latin Empire. But the conquest was a shallow one. The land was restive. Byzantine Greek nobles refused to submit, holding out in provinces like Thrace. They needed an ally. And they found one to the north. Tsar Kaloyan of Bulgaria. A ruler of immense ambition, presiding over a resurgent Bulgarian empire. For years he had been locked in a diplomatic dance with two powers, Rome and Constantinople. He sought a royal crown from the Pope, legitimacy from the West. But his true goal was to reclaim the lost glory and lands of the Bulgarian Tsars. When the Crusaders took Constantinople, Kaloyan saw his moment. The Greeks in Thrace, revolting against Latin rule, appealed to him as their fellow Orthodox. He answered, not as a liberator, but as a predator. He promised them protection, while secretly viewing their lands as his rightful prize. To the Crusaders, Kaloyan was a barbarian king, a complication. To Kaloyan, the Crusaders were invaders, weaker than they appeared, sitting on a throne of stolen gold. And he held a powerful new weapon, an alliance with the Cumans. Fierce, nomadic horsemen from the Pontic steppe, masters of mobility and the feigned retreat, a tactic the heavy knights of the West had never truly faced. The stage was set. Baldwin, needing to secure his empire, had to deal with Kaloyan. Kaloyan, wanting to expand his, lured him in. He began ravaging Latin-held towns, supporting Greek rebels, and then, he withdrew, drawing Baldwin's mighty army away from the safety of Constantinople's walls, into the open, hilly country near the city of Adrianople. The two armies that converged near Adrianople were not just opposites in size, but in philosophy. Baldwin's Crusader force was the pinnacle of Western medieval warfare. Its core was the knight. A human tank wrapped in chainmail, atop a destrier bred for shock and power. His tactic was the mass charge, a wall of flesh, steel, and momentum designed to shatter any enemy line on contact. Supported by sergeants on lighter horses, infantry, and crossbowmen, this was a force built for decisive, head-on confrontation. They were confident to the point of arrogance. They had taken Constantinople, the impregnable. What were Bulgarians and steppe nomads to them? Across the hills, Kaloyan's army was a different beast. Numbering perhaps 12,000, it was smaller, but built for agility and cunning. Its heart was the Cuman horse archer. Lightly armored, riding swift-step ponies, they were virtually born in the saddle. They fought with composite bows, capable of firing with devastating accuracy at a full gallop. Their entire doctrine was based on movement, harassment, and deception. Supporting them was Kaloyan's own Bulgarian force, more disciplined heavy and light cavalry, and solid infantry, many of them fiercely loyal to the Tsar. This was a combined arms force, designed to control the engagement on its own terms. They did not seek to meet the Crusader charge. They sought to invite it, and then to destroy it. Baldwin saw a smaller, inferior army he could scatter in one glorious charge. Kaloyan saw a slow, heavy, overconfident foe he could dissect. Kaloyan chose his ground with the care of a master hunter. He arrayed his main force, his reliable Bulgarian infantry and cavalry, on a high, wooded slope, behind a strong palisade of wagons. This was his anvil, hidden unshakable. In front of this position, he scattered his bait, skirmishing lines of Cuman horse archers. The tactical plan was simple in concept, difficult in execution, and deadly in effect. The Cumans would engage the Crusader vanguard. They would inflict some casualties with arrows, enough to sting the pride of the knights. Then, they would break. They would feign a panicked, disorganized retreat, streaming back towards the hills. This was the trap. The feigned retreat was a classic steppe tactic, but alien and incomprehensible to Western knights. To Baldwin and his commanders, seeing the enemy flee would signal one thing: victory was at hand. The instinct would be irresistible. Charge. Pursue. Break them. And that charge would be the beginning of the end. As the heavily armored knights surged forward in pursuit, they would exhaust their horses and lose all cohesion. The swift Cumans would lead them on, past the hidden Bulgarian position. Then, at the perfect moment, Kaloyan would signal. The Cumans would wheel, turning from fleeing prey into a tightening noose of archers. Kaloyan's main force would surge from its concealment, striking the Crusader column in the flank. The trapped, exhausted, and disorganized knights would be surrounded, cut off from their own infantry, and systematically destroyed. All Kaloyan needed was for the Crusaders to take the bait. As the Crusader van approached, the plan unfolded with chilling precision. Cuman riders appeared like ghosts on the flanks, their arrows whistling through the air, clattering against shields and finding gaps in armor. The Crusader crossbowmen returned fire, but the Cumans were always just out of range, taunting. The Frankish knights, packed together in the front, grew agitated. This was not honorable combat. It was an irritant. And then, as planned, the Cumans broke. They turned their horses and fled in apparent disorder towards the wooded hills. It was the trigger. Disregarding any caution, the entire Crusader heavy cavalry, Emperor Baldwin at its forefront, lowered their lances and erupted into a thunderous charge. The ground shook. They crashed through the thin screen of Cuman stragglers, their blood up, victory cries on their lips. They plunged into the pursuit, their formation stretching, breaking apart as faster horses outpaced slower ones. The weight of their armor, an advantage in a direct clash, became a liability in a long, frantic chase uphill. From his concealed position, Kaloyan watched the dust cloud of the Crusader charge roll past him. He saw the knights become a strung-out, disordered mob, their horses laboring. He gave the signal. Suddenly, the fleeing Cumans pivoted. As if on a single string, they turned, forming into disciplined wings. Their arrows, once sporadic, now became a concentrated storm, pouring into the exposed flanks of the knights. At the same moment, Kaloyan's main Bulgarian force erupted from the woods and the wagon fort. They did not charge the knights head-on. They slammed like a spear into the long, vulnerable side of the Crusader column, cutting the charging cavalry off from the rest of their army. In an instant, the hunters became the hunted. The battle dissolved into a series of brutal, close-quarter massacres. Trapped, exhausted, and surrounded, the knights' greatest strength, their armored mass, was now their prison. They could not maneuver. Their horses, targets for 1,000 arrows, collapsed beneath them. On the ground, weighed down by their mail, they were slow, helpless. The lighter Bulgarian and Cuman cavalry darted in, using axes and lances to finish the work. Chaos spread to the Crusader rear. Their infantry, seeing the elite cavalry annihilated, began to waver, then broke. The rout was total. And in the center of the maelstrom, Emperor Baldwin fought desperately. His bodyguard was cut down around him. His horse was killed. And in the final, crushing blow to Latin prestige, Baldwin of Flanders, Emperor of Constantinople, was knocked from his feet, captured, and dragged away a prisoner of Tsar Kaloyan. He would never see the West again. By nightfall, the Thracian valley was silent but for the moans of the dying. The flower of Latin chivalry lay shattered. 40,000 had marched out. A broken remnant fled back to Constantinople with a story of unimaginable disaster. The immediate aftermath was a seismic shock. The Latin Empire, less than a year old, was decapitated. With Baldwin captured, and later secretly executed, it was plunged into a leadership crisis from which it never truly recovered. Its aura of invincibility was shattered. Greek revolts flared with new intensity, knowing the Latins could be beaten. For Kaloyan, it was the zenith of his power. He earned his grim epithet, Roman Slayer. But now he had also slain the myth of Crusader invincibility. He rampaged through Thrace, capturing cities and fortresses. The Bulgarian Empire reached a territorial and political peak, the dominant power in the Balkans. But the victory's impact was deeper than territory. It demonstrated brutally that the rigid, charge-dependent warfare of the West could be catastrophically outmaneuvered. It was a lesson that would be repeated centuries later against the Mongols. The battle crippled the Latin Empire, ensuring it remained a sickly, vulnerable state that would limp on for only another half-century before the Greeks retook Constantinople. It was a clash of empires, of martial doctrines, and of pride. And on that day, pride had a deadly cost. The Battle of Adrianople in 1205 is more than a story of an ambush. It is a masterclass in strategic patience against tactical impatience. It is the victory of adaptability over arrogance. The Crusaders, for all their might, were prisoners of their own assumptions. They believed their way of war was the only way. They mistook mobility for weakness, and cunning for cowardice. Kaloyan and his Cuman allies understood their enemy's psychology perfectly. They didn't just fight the knights, they manipulated their very mindset, turning their greatest strength, the aggressive charge, into the instrument of their own destruction. It reminds us that in warfare, and perhaps in all conflicts, the most dangerous opponent is the one who refuses to fight on your terms. The one who chooses the ground, controls the pace, and understands your weaknesses better than you do yourself. The bones of the knights faded into the soil of Thrace. The Latin Empire faded into history. But the lesson of Adrianople echoes, that no armor is so thick, and no confidence so high, that it cannot be undone by a well-laid trap and the courage to wait for the perfect moment to spring it. From the sack of a great city to the ambush in a quiet valley, the tide of history turns on such moments. This was the day the Crusader tide met a wall it could not break, and broke itself instead.